Assets, locate the Configure Assets button on the main HUD. In this Configure Assets panel, you can now configure any of the fields that you can see if you click the robot that you'd like to configure. For the model of 2471, I will be configuring the intake and ejector. If you would like your robot as part of the default asset pack, submit it on our website. Once you've clicked the name of the assembly you would like to configure, you can then click the configuration mode that you would like to change. For the intake, you will be able to configure the zone for which the robot intakes. For this, I will be able to position the intake zone, and if I would like to change the size, you can move the slider here. The intake animation duration will change the amount of time it takes for a game piece to be intaked. The max pieces slider will allow you to change how many pieces can be intaked at a time. I will also check the show intake zone always so that the intake zone will always show even when I click save. Lastly, make sure that you've selected a parent node. The parent node will anchor the intake zone to a certain part of the robot. If you anchor it to the driver base, then the zone will move with the robot everywhere. But if you anchor it to any of the mechanisms that have joints and can move, then it will move with that joint specifically. So once I've finished my configuration, I'll click Save, and we can see the zone appear. If I move a joint, you can see that the zone moves with that joint. Now to configure the ejector, I will do the same process of going back to the Configure Assets panel. Now for this, with the same process, you can move and position your ejector. You can also rotate it such that it faces upwards. Also for this, make sure that you've also clicked a parent node. This way, when you are finished configuring, it will also move with that parent. Once you're done, you can click Save. To intake a game piece, if you drive such that it enters your zone and you click the E button on your keyboard, it will then intake. To eject, make sure that you click the Q button and it will eject. To configure fields, follow the same process. You're going to configure assets, click the Field tab, then find the field you would like to configure. For this demo, I will be configuring the scoring zones. The scoring zones are the area where if game pieces enter, points will be added to the team for which that scoring zone exists. To add a scoring zone, you'll click the plus button here. You can then select the alliance, change the name, and also select the parent zone of the field. Now, to position the scoring zone, use the transform gizmos that are automatically attached. You can click between the rotate and scale features to also rotate them or scale them. When you finished configuring the position, you can also configure the number of points that will be added once a game piece enters. If the game piece must stay in the zone for the point to count, you can turn on persistent points. Once you've finished, click the Save button. If your scoring zone doesn't stay appearing and you would like it to, you can go to General Settings and click the Show Scoring Zones right here and make sure that is set to true. To configure inputs, go to the Inputs tab in the Configure Assets panel. You can configure existing input schemes or even add your own here. Once you click the plus button, you can add a name for your new input scheme. You can also change the drive type. Once you're done, click Accept. To edit the input scheme, click the input scheme's name. To change the key bindings for your input scheme, click the area for that key binding and then press the key you want to bind. Follow the same process for all of the binds. If you'd like to add a joint control, you can click Add Joint Control button and then follow the same process for binding the joint control. To chain joints or chain keybinds, simply hold the other keybind as you press the second one. Once you've completed that, click the Save button. Once your robot is configured to have that input scheme, you can then control your robot using that input scheme.